Hello, I'm Mike Cerre. Welcome to PM Magazine from atop the world's largest Gothic cathedral. No, we're not at Notre Dame in France. We're here at St. John the Divine in Manhattan. And just to prove they still can build buildings like they used to, on tonight's PM Magazine, we're going to show you how they're still building this cathedral by hand. But first, here's Danny to tell you about the rest of tonight's PM Magazine.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, I'm Danny Falke, and tonight I'm over at the Epicurean Gallery. It's a cooking school here on East 70th Street in Manhattan. And this is Gilda Latsky, and she's the head chef here at the cooking school. She'll be showing me in just a moment how to make a delicious Italian appetizer. Then later on in the show, we're off to Italy to visit another famous cooking school. In fact, they draw students from all over the world. Then in our PM Magazine department, Chef Tell shows us how to make a French pie crust in a food processor. Dr. Jim Wasco has a body quiz on caffeine and a suggestion for how to break the caffeine habit. And finally, Linda Harris continues her Trans-Canadian Great Escape. Tonight we'll find out how much fun traveling can be by train. Now here's Mike in Upper Manhattan.
Ever since they first laid the cornerstone here at St. John the Divine, it's been tabbed with the nickname St. John the Unfinished, because where I'm standing is where one of two 150-foot Gothic towers should be reaching up into the heavens. But it's never been done. And on tonight's PM Magazine, you're going to meet a very special group of people who have dedicated the rest of their lives to making that dream come true, stone by stone. The massive blocks of stone will last for centuries. Come from a limestone quarry in Indiana. 12 apprentice stone cutters who will shape them into an architectural form from centuries past come from the local community in Harlem. The master mason who will teach them his dying trade while attempting yet one more cathedral in his lifetime is from England and Liverpool. Chris Hanaway builds cathedrals stone by stone, and not with brick and steel.
Well, anybody can do that. It takes a craftsman to do that.
The Cathedral of St. John the Divine has had its traditional construction breaks, seemingly every 20 years or so. It's been this way since they started the job 2 days after Christmas, 1892, as the choir sang out, "Let us rise and build." What they've built thus far has risen tall enough to accommodate the Statue of Liberty under the dome, 2 football fields down its aisles. But like the rusting skeleton of the unfinished North Transept, which marked the last construction phase before the war, they have yet to top off the front of the cathedral with the 2 Gothic towers that have always been part of the design. Today, they exist only on a scale model, which Dean James Morton uses to illustrate the $20 million and 20-year dream.
With a little bit of luck, we can start building, actually constructing the South Tower in about 3 years. And we're now preparing all of the stone, but each of these towers has 12,000 stones. So this is 24,000 hand-cut stones. And we can't start construction of this one until we have 2/3 of them cut beforehand. An inventory of 2/3, which is 8,000 stones.
There are less than 100 men alive today capable of seeing a job like this through, from cutting the stone to making sure it all fits into a towering Gothic masterpiece. Chris Hanaway is one of the last of the master masons. On this job, he has the added responsibility of teaching his lifelong trade to apprentices, whose previous experiences range from sculpting to refrigerator repair work.
Well, I started when I was just under 16. 16 February coming up. And during that period, you had to serve your time for a full 5 years. You had to serve the master for the full 5 years. It was sort of a bind between the one. It was called an indenture.
What I was doing in the past was teaching arts and crafts and mixed media courses. I'm a sculptor, so I'm sort of somewhat at home.
This here is just like a doctor's work. You're always constantly learning more and more and more, It's a field that's going to continue with there's more and more to be learned.
What you're doing means something that's going to last a lifetime or several lifetimes. There aren't very many things that you can do that give you that kind of reward, just knowing that it's going to be there.
Alan Bird knows the feeling. He finished his apprenticeship in England and already has one cathedral under his belt. Now, as a journeyman, he's here to help Chris and to carry on the tradition.
I've worked at a cathedral all my life so far. I spent 13 years at Wells Cathedral in England, and then come to this cathedral in America. It's not too tough because there's not many of us.
Now, Chris, we know how old your work is. How does it stack up with professions? Is it the oldest profession?
Oh, well, I don't think it's the oldest profession, but it's certainly the oldest trade, as we know it as a trade. I'm not going into that like the oldest profession, because we all know what that is.
Do you take great pride in the fact that you are adding on to the world's largest Gothic cathedral?
Sure I do, yeah. Yeah, I certainly do. You know, I take great pride in the fact that we're teaching these here boys and girls like to carry on the trade, my own trade.
You think you'll be here 20 years from now?
Me? Well, like I said, as long as Chris be here, I'll be here. Once he leaves, then I'm leaving.
He's that important. Yeah. Is he, what you're learning from him, more important than building a cathedral?
Yeah.
Because of the stop-and-go construction phases and the frequent changes in design, one architectural critic called the cathedral a mess, but an awfully powerful one. Completion of the Gothic towers, however, would give the Cathedral of St. John the Divine a permanent place in New York's skyline. And like Chris Hanaway once told the Queen of England when he finished the Liverpool Cathedral, it will last as long as a stone. Will they ever finish these towers? Well, they have the blueprints for them, and we know Indiana surely has enough limestone for the construction. But what about the human resources? Because after all, it takes people to build cathedrals. At age 64, you're looking at a job that is supposed to take 20 years.
Yeah. Well,
Is this your last job?
I would say it is, yeah. Yeah, I would say this is my last job.
Do you think you'll be around to see it completed?
Well, you know, you can't really... I'd like to. Yeah, I'd hope to. But, you know, let's not commit ourselves to being here, you know. I couldn't say that, could I?
Just as the stonecutters actually carve the rocks will be able to point to their work with pride, so will the people who help finance it. There's a program underway in which you can sponsor a piece of the spires. In fact, an ashlar rock cost $100, and a cornice rock way up here would cost $5,000. At St. John the Divine, that's what you call buying a piece of the rock. Stay with us. In a minute, we'll have more of tonight's PM Magazine.